Hello everyone, thank you for coming today. My name is John Paul Arnoldy. I'm an application engineer here at Instrumart. I've been here 7 years now. We're here today to discuss a recent trend we've been seeing in the sales of some of our product lines and a possible solution for the problem that's at hand. Today we're going to talk about the problem and its ramifications, what we're seeing in the marketplace. We're going to discuss a proposed solution, the budget for that solution, the benefits to Instrumart, and then we're going to finish up with some questions from the audience. There's a problem in the industrial e-commerce market today. And what we're seeing is some of these big box stores are creeping into the e-commerce marketplace for instrumentation. And they have the means to buy some of the lower dollar commodity items in large quantities at bigger discounts. And what we're seeing is they're selling these products at costs that are generally reserved for distribution, and they're selling them directly to the end user. What we're seeing is sales are being won solely on advertised pricing. We're seeing fewer sales at lower margins in certain products, and we're seeing a dilution of product knowledge due to an eroding marketplace and distribution channels that are not as tech savvy as Instrumart is. Sales are being won solely on advertised price. And a good way to illustrate this is one of our legacy products, the Raytech MT6. It's a pretty low dollar commodity item. It was once one of our best sellers, and we've seen the sales slipping the past couple of years. A quick Google search gives us a slew of online retailers advertising at costs. Here we see one of the big names here, Amazon. We got a list price of $99, and they've got an advertised price of $60.04, which is a 33% discount. Now this is a cost that most distribution channels were buying these at and selling them at 10-15% off to resale channels and list price to end users. And now we're seeing these bargain basement pricing online. Same product line here, the Ray MT6. We're seeing fewer sales at lower margins. Now we've tried to compete with in these markets, and at these bargain basement pricing, we're still not getting the sales we once did at list price. We can see here in 2010 we sold 740 units. In 2011, 760. And then in 2012 we see a sharp drop off, nearly half as many products at a much lower profit margin. And then when we roll in costs for processing the order, costs for advertising the product, and these lower margins, our profit is in the red on some of these lines, and it's something we need to fix. A dilution of quality service due to product knowledge, lack thereof product knowledge. And not to pick on the pretty face on the end of the phone on the other side, but a quick example. I followed up recently on a quote I had done for a company called Palcon down in Texas. They're a manufacturer. They're an annealing manufacturer, so they're measuring moisture in their annealing process gas. And it took some time to spec in. They were looking for a portable hygrometer to detect trace moisture in their processed gas. And it did take some time to get this product spec'd in, and I quoted them a whole package, portable hygrometer, the meter, the probe, the cable, the hoses, the connectors, the sample cell, sample system, and it was a complete package at a great discount, a good price. I called up the other day to find out that they had purchased it through another vendor. What I was told was a cheaper price. So getting more into it, the customer was actually happy I called, because what had happened is he had handed my quote over to his purchasing department, who immediately went to Google, Googled the part numbers, and went and purchased it from the cheapest price they could find. And what they ended up getting was a $5,000 paperweight, because what they got in the mail was just the meter. They didn't get a probe, they didn't get a cable to connect to the probe, they didn't get a sample system. So they got this black box with nothing to hook up to it, and essentially an expensive paperweight. Now what does this do to the product line? How does that customer see that now? And this is particularly a GE product. Now, you know, this customer has bad taste in his mouth now. It was a bad brand experience for him from a well-reputed company. And we're seeing that as these profit margins go down, some of the high-quality vendor channels are stepping away from that product line because the margins just aren't there for the brick-and-mortar kind of retail site that we're running here. You know, we have engineers on the phone selling products. We're not just going to take your part number, and that costs money, and we can't work on 3-4% profit. So, what's the solution? Well, what I'm proposing today is a campaign of map knowledge. Basically, an internal campaign to make our sales team, make our product line managers more aware of the situation that we're seeing in the marketplace. We want to research map policy litigation. Now, this may seem futile, but we all know vendors can't tell us how much we can sell their product for. That's price collusion, and it's against the law. But there is some litigation that has been passed that legalizes a map policy that vendors can tell us how much we can advertise their products for. I want to research map policy implementation. We have several vendors that are great, have a great map policy, and it's part of their standard vendor distribution agreement. And they monitor these sites, and they make sure that no one's offending or in offense of their agreement. Using these existing map policies, I'd like to draft an example map policy, an Instrumart map policy. Not that we are a manufacturer, but something to share with manufacturers that don't have one. And you give them something to work with to develop their own map policies. And this will all be done by coordinating and documenting this internal training for us. So training of the product line managers is a small flow chart of how I foresee this going, with Bob Berman, our president and CEO, obviously at the head of this. Next in line would be Duncan Addison, our VP of marketing. Myself as the product manager, and I'd like to elect pod leaders. Here at Instrumart we have 3 pods that we distribute the instrumentation lines into temperature, calibration, and flow. And each of these pods I'd like to elect a pod leader to aid some of the junior engineers and product line managers in those vendor relations. Someone that's been here more than 10 years and is well versed in a map policy procedure. And then we'll trickle down to each of the product line managers in each of the pods, and they'll be responsible for evaluating each of their lines so we can determine problem vendors and where we should focus our time on this project. Informed vendor. How does this solve the problem? Well, we'll be able to evaluate each one of our vendors based on recent sales numbers, sales history using the NetSuite software. We can run reports very easily and pinpoint which vendors we really need to focus on. We can also screen potential new lines. So before bringing new lines on, we can evaluate them in the e-commerce marketplace and determine whether or not it's worth our time to set them up on Instrumart and put the time into developing product pages for them before we even bring them on. And then we can evaluate the vendor response. What did the vendor do with this information? Are they stagnant? Did they make it? Have they made changes to their distribution agreements? Are we seeing a turnaround in their product lines? And ultimately we can decide whether or not we want to keep a vendor on, and unsatisfactory vendors can be dropped. The budget for this project is pretty simple. There really is none. There are no explicit costs. Aside from the time, the implicit cost would be the time to prepare the curriculum and do the research and develop the product training. And the training time itself would be the other implicit cost, taking the engineers off the phone for a couple of hours to inform them of this new campaign. The benefits for Instrumart, as I said before, we can evaluate existing vendors. We can evaluate their response. Hopefully in time we'll see a turnaround in these markets. We'll get some response from these vendors. They'll see the problems that we're seeing, because it is a problem. It's an eroding marketplace, and when profit margins are down, no one's going to want to sell their products. And the people who do work on those slim margins aren't going to have the assets to support them. We'd like to see increased profit margins and a rise in sales of the products that we've been seeing drop off lately. And ultimately, we'll get a savings in advertising dollars, because we'll have more profit margin, and we'll eliminate trim some of the fat that has been sucking up some of these advertising dollars. And with that, I'd like to finish, and I appreciate everyone's time today. And I'd like to open the floor up to any questions or concerns that anyone may have. Again, my name is John Paul Arnoldy, Application Engineer, Instrumart, July 2013. Good day.